What's up, gaggers? Today on episode 2 of Gag Talk, I want to discuss the spell problem that Wizard101 has. But first and foremost, I want to say the reason why I'm under the water right now is because I think my lighting is messing up with my shirt, and the shirt makes me kind of blue, and my green screen's messing up right now. My audio still isn't fixed. I need to figure that out. Blue Yeti. I'm too loud sometimes and too quiet sometimes. Maybe someone in the comment section can tell me what maybe filter I need to put on OBS or whatever. But realistically, just want to talk about the Wizard101 spell problem and a solution I believe can help pretty much every part of this spell problem. So why I'm bringing this up is recently I saw an Awesome the Sauce video laying out how people need to use training point buyback if they want to spell weave into a secondary school or PvP, right? And the idea behind spell weaving is that it's supposed to be easy, right? And we're talking Slenopolis here. It's supposed to be easy for players, to go between schools, right? If you do all the quests for spell weaving for life and say you're a storm, you should be able to also do all the death quests to get that spell weaving, maybe even ice, even fire, whatever. And whenever you do all these things, you should be able to easily go between each spell weaving school. So if you want to be storm and life, in a minute or two, you should be able to go to storm and death if you really want that. And the reason why that's important is because in advanced combat or PvP, players need to be able to switch because maybe it's different strategies, maybe you're just feeling like switching, whatever it is. And again, with advanced combat, we're talking guilds, stuff like that. So people need to be able to do they need to be easily able to swap between schools. Now, in this video that Awesome the Sauce made, I'll link it down below. Maybe I'll even put a thumbnail on the video. Not sure. But he goes over an exploit that actually doesn't give you back training points if you spellamented a spell, thus allowing you to know or have learned higher tier spells while also getting the benefit of getting back your training points to do it again for another school. And what I mean by this is there's an exploit, and I'll leave it to advanced combat and PvPers to figure out this exploit. But there's an exploit with this in that, say you go from Firecat to Scion, right? Fire Scion. And you learn everything between, right? Anything to get you to Scion. I'm pretty sure you can learn Scions of other schools now. All you have to do is put Spellements towards Fire Scion. And then when you go to buy back your training points from Mr. Lincoln in Ravenwood, you get all of the spells, you get all the training points back, and you no longer know the spells, but because you have Spellements towards Fire Scion, in this hypothetical, you actually get to keep Fire Scion because you can't get your training points back from Spellamented spells. And what people noticed and what people do is, okay, we know that there's this issue with spells, right? It's not easy to go between different secondary schools, so what can we do? Well, we can put Spellements towards the spells we want, learn up to them, right? Learn up to the spells of a certain school, put Spellements into the spells we want to keep, just in case we have to swap, get the training point buyback. Mr. Lincoln gives you as many as you can, but again, you get to keep those spells that were Spellamented, so you get to keep Fire Scion, and then you can put all your training points into Ice Scion, right? From Frost Beetle to Ice Scion, and then you can just pretty much repeat the process until you get every spell that you want for every school that you want, and you kind of have no limitation with it. And that's what makes it an exploit, in the sense that you can pretty much learn every random spell that you want and have the benefit of getting your training points back. So if you want to learn, it's a bad example, but say you want to get weakness on balance, right? And you go from Scarab to the weakness spell, for the balance school, right? You can learn it in Ravenwood, whatever. Now, there are no Spellements for weakness, so this is a bad example. But you could forget, right? You could put a Spellament into weakness. Again, it doesn't exist, but it can happen with lower tier spells too. That's what I'm getting at. You can then put it into a weakness, and then you can completely get your training points back from Scarab, Locust Swarm, whatever, and you get to keep the weakness spell. You can do this for every school and get the training points and pretty much circumvent the limitation of training points, right? And Awesome the Sauce also factors in maybe a solution is maybe just giving more training points. And I think maybe that's a decent idea. I think training points should, at the very least, through quests in Celestia or just other quests in general, or just leveling up in general too, it should probably be 2.5 levels per training point as a relative frequency of when you get them, right? So if that's the case, you would expect at level 200 to have 80 training points, or honestly, they could even do 3 levels per training point, but that would be way more stricter. There'd be way less training points people would get. Things would be tighter. If you do 2 levels per training point, you would be looking at 100 training points when you reach level 100. And to be fair, with the solution that I've come up with, which I haven't gotten to yet, I think 100 is actually fine once you hit level 200. But again, this is just a general estimate. I honestly don't know what KingsIsle's vision is for training points, how many they want people to have, etc. So 2.5, maybe a sweet spot. 2 might be really good if they don't implement my personal recommendation. I think 2 would probably be better, because then again you could be 200 and have 100 training points. It would make it easier for high level wizards to have plenty of spells. So on regards to training points, Awesome the Sauce and I actually agree, but there are systems already in the game that I think allow for a better solution than just training points. So my solution to the spell problem, the problem being that Archmastery, spell weaving, you should be able to change it quickly, easily, switch between different secondary schools, etc., is to make most, if not all, learnable spells craftable. So what do I mean by this? Well, we know for the past, what has it been, decade, maybe even longer, that Lore Master spells have always had the option to let you craft them. Think Weaver, think Catalan, all of these spells, right? And when you craft these spells on a character, or get them from Lore Master at the time, when you got those spells, they were permanent. If you craft them, you get them from a pack even, Lore Master. If you go to get training points back, you do not get the spells taken away because you didn't learn them with training points. This solution of crafting every spell that's learnable actually would assist in the, turmoil that was caused from making it so Spellements no longer can be used to train spells. So Wallaroo spells, you were able to use Spellements before to learn a spell. Now it seems like that's been taken away, or is planning to be taken away. If everything is craftable, then it doesn't really matter if Spellements no longer have that purpose of, if I just want to use Spellements, I can just craft it now. It doesn't matter to use Spellements. Another thing is, if you give everyone access to recipes to every spell, and people actually do that, right? Do choose to get every spell that can be learned into, from a recipe, I think that would actually be good for Spellements as a whole, because theoretically, right, if people have 7 max wizards or even higher, because, character additional slots, things like that, people could have multiple max wizards or multiple high level wizards and need to have the best Spellements put on each wizard. Meaning, if someone has a storm and an ice and they want to use fire spells on both, whether PvE or PvP, they would need to have the Spellements required to make each fire spell for each character better, meaning that Spellements would actually have more use than before. And there would be more of an urge to actually have more and more Spellements. Also, being allowed to craft every spell that you want would actually help PvPers and the upper echelon of players, and that includes PvEers too, who just want to like complete the game, the completionist types, because now they can actually get all the spells that they want and easily switch. So maybe a PvEer wants to spicing up their gameplay, so a couple fights they're playing with Storm, a couple later they're playing with Ice, or even, right, being able to craft every spell that's learnable, you could theoretically play as many schools as you want at one time, because PvE really doesn't matter. It would also allow for casual players to learn spells by just training points alone. Again, if we do that 2 to 2.5 range of training points per level per training point, sorry. And they wouldn't even have to get into the crafting of spells. I mean, just think of Lore Master spells. Some casual players will try getting the Lore Master spells, or I guess formerly Lore Master spells, and they're good to have. But realistically, a casual player doesn't really do too much crafting anyway, let alone crafting of spells, because crafting of spells is very difficult already. We learned that through Lore Master. So, assuming that it would probably be relatively difficult, especially as the tier of spell goes up. 1 pip spell would probably have an easier recipe than a 10 pip spell, for example. But casual players wouldn't be affected, right? This isn't something that every player must have to do. They can still use training points because it's just easier that way to learn these spells. And other players who want more spells can have the option of just crafting if they really want every single spell or specific spells for specific purposes like PvP, advanced combat, etc. Honestly, this would also help the gold crisis. So in Wizard101, a lot of things are especially more expensive as you go on in the game, right? The best example I can come up with off the top of my head is recipes, right? So up until Lemuria, then after that it stops, recipes for pretty much everything were like, in Lemuria, I think it was 70,000 gold per item. So a deck of cards would be 70k, a recipe for a robe would be 70k, things like that. It makes you spend a ton of your gold, and the idea is you get a ton of gold when you play the game, especially at the higher end of Wizard101, later worlds. Maybe you're doing more side activities like gardening. You're doing more side activities like gardening, which I actually have a video of. I think I only gardened on one character during double gardening, and I got over 2 million or 3 million gold just on one character alone. So it just goes to show you that there is it's a gold crisis, because KingsIsle even admits that they want people to burn as much gold as they can. That's why they make things expensive later on. But it would also help this way, because let's say we go back to having spell recipes rather. You have to purchase the spell recipe, right? If they make it that way. You could start off imp, right? Like, let's just say life spells. We can start the first tier imp spell, make it 25,000 gold, and then go up from there. Maybe rebirth would be what? Like 250, maybe 200. Scale it so it's appropriate, so that the highest level spells are a ton of gold, right? And in this case, it would destroy a bunch of gold, because you just have to think, if you want to do that just for one school alone, you're looking at a couple 100,000 gold, if not millions. And then you have to factor in that people have multiple characters. Of those characters, they might want to learn multiple spells on each character, multiple schools on each character. So this would burn millions upon millions of gold for each account if they chose this option. So that would also help to assist in the idea that there's just too much gold that people are hoarding in Wizard101, and it would actually help alleviate that, because again, if people really do go this route, they're going to have way less gold than they did before. Another thing this would help is gardening and other side activities. So depending on the recipe of each spell, you can see that, let's just say Imp, right? Let's say Imp needs 50 Mistwood. 50 Mistwood, you can just run around Wizard City, pick it up as you go. You can farm the Bazaar, whatever. But you could also garden, right? There's Tiger Lily. Tiger Lily drops Mistwood, I think as mature, but also maybe as elder as well. And you can do gardening to get Mistwood. See, here's the thing. Most people, even casual players, only garden things that give mega snacks, right? And even amongst casual players, that's not always true. This would put more of an incentive to garden things that aren't just things like evil magma peas or couch potatoes, because then you can get reagents for spells. Tiger Lily drops Mistwood. You could farm, garden, I should say, Tiger Lily. Another thing is, another spell, right? Let's say Rebirth. Assuming that Rebirth would be a much more difficult recipe, you could say from 50 Mistwood at Imp, maybe 250 acorns would be required to make Rebirth, for example. 250 acorns, that's a lot of acorns. You'd have to get a lot of Mistwood. You could walk around Wizard City again. You can farm bosses. You can buy reagent bundles in the Crown Shop. Farm the Bazaar, which acorn is hard to get in the Bazaar already, so that might not be good, etc., etc. But you could also garden again, right? Talking burning snapdragons, they drop them. Again, it would give more incentive to hit other seedlings, hit other plants than what is typically done in Wizard 101. And that's all to say that if they were to make every spell craftable, every learnable spell craftable, it would allow for side activities to have a boon to them. Because depending on what exactly you need, whether it be, a reagent, maybe even pet snack, depending on, the logic behind the spell, Imp might require Mistwood because it's life, but maybe there's I don't know, maybe there's a pet snack that has wings on it or something, right? There's a winged something. And you could say, oh, well, you can get pet snacks for this specific recipe that, again, the pet snack would be wings or something. I don't know. Or you can even do housing items. You could pretty much do everything under the sun, right? You could use any part of pretty much everything you can collect in Wizard 101. Housing item, potentially even gear, reagents, maybe even fish too, depending on the spell. So it would boost people's engagement with other side activities. Is pretty much what I'm getting at. Another thing is, I actually recently watched another Awesome the Sauce video that had me thinking about this. There are spells that you can really only use for advanced combat and PvP, and what's something that you get from advanced combat and PvP? You get reagents that are specific to it, like tokens, for example. And there's really not too much use for them. It's easy to accumulate a lot, I should say. There are uses for them, I shouldn't say that. But if you make certain PvP-only spells or advanced combat spells, if you make it so you have to have, if you want to, craft them, you could actually use those tokens or idols, trophies. I don't know what they're called because I don't do PvP, but there are specific reagents, specific to PvP that could be used. And so the reason why I made this video is because, we're at a stage in Wizard 101 that, die-hard Wizard 101 players, whether they be PvPers or maybe completionist players, they want more spells, right? Archmastery and spell weaving exists. That's being pushed upon players, which is fine, right? It's good that this is being pushed. It adds more of an element to Wizard 101 rather than just Blade AoE. And here's the thing. My solution, which is make every learnable spell craftable, Lore Master spells set the precedent years ago, and you can already craft spells. There's already logic behind it. Another thing recently, Wizard101 took away the ability, at least with some spells, maybe all of them, I'm not sure, I'd have to look into it, the ability to train spells with Spellements. So if they got rid of that, why not just be able to craft spells? And honestly, now, all they really need to do, my solution, I think, is best being able to train through crafting. But again, Awesome the Sauce was correct in the sense that we probably do need more training points. But that's the thing. More training points makes it better for everyone, but also being able to craft spells makes it better for everyone, because only specific players, only a certain percentage of players are going to go ham and craft every spell that they want, or every spell in general that they can, right? Only a specific few are going to get every Lore Master spell crafted, or, get every Spellement to every spell and, train them, back in the day, I guess, or make every spell the best it can be, etc. So with that all being said, I really do think that in this stage of Wizard101, just make it craftable. And I think that would solve a lot of the problems with, the spell controversy of, taking the ability to train spells away, using Spellements, making it more challenging. Then there's the exploit too of, being able to Spellament certain spells and then get your training points back for things prior to it. Just be able to craft spells, If someone wants to craft, Imp and Scarab and Rebirth and Stormlord, let them be able to. Let them make certain, highly coveted spells more difficult to craft. I think that would be fair. Use maybe more niche reagents, more niche fish, housing items, pet snacks, whatever, to make specific things, specific spells. But yeah, I think that's it. I think they should do this, and yeah, I just want to know, let me know your thoughts, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Sorry if the video is messed up. Sorry if the audio is messed up. Video. I think I'm going to be under the water for this one. I'm just assuming. I haven't edited yet. I haven't even edited the prior 2 episodes, so who's to say? But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one, hopefully. See ya!